Attention, citizens of planet Earth. This is a public service announcement. We have come to tell you that everything that you have been told.
Hey, what's up? This is Lock 'em Up Hoops podcast. Thanks for watching or listening. I am Realistic Randy with Mastermind and Bo Berry. Fellas, what's going on?
Going on? How you doing?
What's up?
Hey, you guys out in Boston, I'm out in Cali. We still get things done. It is what it is. Let's get right into it. Playoff talk right now. We'll get into the playoff series. We just watched the Charlotte Hornets go up 3-2 in the series against the Miami Heat. We'll get into that a little bit. We'll also talk about Mark Cuban's comments on Russell Westbrook as far as him not being a superstar, only an all-star, but we'll get into that a little bit later. First, let's talk about the injury bug that's going on in the playoffs, particularly in the Western Conference. So let's start with probably the biggest one of all, Steph Curry. He's injured, sprained MCL back in, Game 4 against the Houston Rockets. He went 2 for 9 from the field, shaking off a little bit of rust before he slipped on the wet spot after Monty Eunice fell and slipped and everything like that. They say he'll be out, at least 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
But at least for right now, at this point, it's like a week and a half. At this point, it's like a week and a half before he gets reevaluated again. Bo Berry, let's start with you. What do you make of the injury with Steph Curry? What do you think of Golden State's playoff chances? Do you think he'll come back in 2 weeks? What do you make of this whole situation?
Well, this whole situation is eerily similar to when my Boston Celtics, Kevin Garnett, kind of got hurt. And, he was always coming back. And, the timetable was always different. And, it's just very eerily similar because things are just, not adding up and things didn't look right and didn't look well. And we got to remember, folks, this is a knee injury, this is just plain and simple. Like, you don't come back from that type of sprain in a week or two. I mean, we also just recently saw what happened to Jimmy Butler, and granted, they aren't the same player and their bodies are different, but that still took about 4 weeks, I believe, if that, you know what I'm saying? Like, he took a little bit of time to come back. So for Curry to have this knee injury, we all saw how he went down. It doesn't look good. No matter how many times the Warriors and, the organization is going to do what they have to do, which is say, oh, he's going to be okay. And, the fact that they're even, reevaluating him again in 2 weeks already concerns me just because, you already told us what it was. And I think they said what was the term grade 1 MRI. Grade 1 MCL sprain. That already makes me uncomfortable already when you already had the diagnosis for it. And we all know, you just don't come back from a week in that. I just believe the Warriors are going to have to really worry about the next round and Browns going further because they are going against, I presume, to be a very good Portland team. And along to go with that, if they do get by them, and that's just granted how long and what's going on with Steph, they're going to have to play the Spurs or the Thunder. So their chances of repeating, I think, are very slim. But to get to the Western Conference Finals, I think they still have a high chance because their team's still pretty good. And, that man, Dame Lillard is a bad boy out there. And I'm definitely going to write off the Clippers at this point just because too many things happened over there as well. So that's my take on what's really going to end up happening with the Warriors.
And we'll also get into the Clippers injuries in just a little bit, too, like you just touched on, Bo Berry. Mastermind, what do you make of Steph Curry and the injured, MCL sprain that is going on?
Well, I'm looking forward for this 2 weeks to come up because I'm interested to see if he really is, if it's really going to take longer than 2 weeks because, like Bo Berry said, this is a knee injury, and he's going to have a noticeable limp. I don't know if you guys paid attention to the walk after he left the arena. It didn't look good to me. He could barely
with the
step
prayer
on
after.
He could barely step on his barely walk, so it looked uncomfortable. I feel bad for the guy because he was healthy all year. He didn't run into any of these issues earlier on, and we all thought, his ankle injuries were gone, and then look, he gets hurt in his first game of this series. And then as soon as he comes back, he hurts himself. He hurts himself. This is a worse case of injury rather than the ankle. This is your knee. So he's dealing with both injuries right now, and who knows if his ankle's really still healthy right now either, because that it kept him out. Game 2, game 2 and game 3. So he really hasn't played all series, and for me, this causes for a lot of rest to come along. He's been playing. He played all year. I think he missed 3 games earlier this year with a shin injury. So this guy's consistently been on the court all year. So my thing is, if he does come back and it isn't hurt, I feel like he's going to have to play at least a week before the rest gets off because let's face it, the playoffs is a lot different than
Whole different
in the
beast.
regular season. So you have guys that are coming after you. The game is you're playing more minutes. So um, I'm not majorly concerned, but I do feel bad for him. It's kind of karma though because everyone that they played last year in this playoffs, every point guard they faced with the Grizzlies and Mike Conley was out, and who else was it? They played Houston with Patrick Beverly out, and of course, in the championship when they played the Cavs without Kyrie, so it's kind of like
and
damn,
Kevin Love.
like and Kevin Love, so it's kind of like karma, like it's kind of karma that this is happening right now.
I have to disagree with you on this one.
I am disagreeing as well. I'm disagreeing as well. Go ahead.
I hate to say it, but
Awful.
it just looks like it's happening. I don't want to see Steph because I'd rather the playoffs is a lot more worse without Steph Curry, the MVP. But like I said, it's karma. Hopefully he does come back. I'm anticipating he will come back, and I don't know this next the Clippers and Blazers series. Who knows? That might go 7. I'm not gonna count them out yet, just because they still got players there. It's not like they're not gonna bow down just because Chris Paul and Blake Griffin are gone. You're gonna have Austin Rivers.
DeAndre Jordan, he's gonna be the man.
DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah.
He had. We'll
He has
see.
so much offense.
Yep.
See?
Oh,
He's dominant.
he wanted to be the
I'm not
man
saying
in
he's
Dallas.
gonna-
Like, I want to be the
6
man.
points, 6 points
Yep.
a game, Paul
This
Pierce.
is your
Getting
chance.
It's his chance
$80
now.
million
Let's see what he really got.
$80 million. So he better
Wow.
perform.
You said 7.
It could go 7. I'm not gonna
So
count them out. For the Blazers to win, C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard have to play well every single game. So there's a game that
That's me.
I'm just saying they're not gonna. I'm just saying they can double them and things can happen. We'll see. But I'm not gonna count out. I'm not gonna count them out and say this game is over right now because this game is pretty when players get hurt, there's the next man up. They're not. It's not like they're gonna bow down. Let's face it. This is the NBA. Just because this is just the way it goes. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Clippers won tonight. But going back, going back to the Steph's injury, I hope he comes back and we'll see in 2 weeks.
All right, so before
Karma.
I even go on with my whole take on Steph Curry's injury, I disagree with you really, really badly right now, Mastermind. And everyone else out here that's saying, well, last year, Steph Curry, he went against all these injuries play. Let me tell you something right now. It's not like LeBron went out for the playoffs last year. It was Kevin Love and it was Kyrie Irving. Yes, the second and third best players on the Cavs. So it's not like on the Warriors, Draymond Green and Klay Thompson are out. You're losing the MVP of the season. Now, I can understand some arguments as far as, well, he went against, injured point guards, but the overall totality of the whole situation, it doesn't compare to last year because you're losing your best player on that team. But let me get back to this whole situation with Steph Curry. So let me touch on Game 4 a little bit. So if you remember, Mastermind Bo Berry, at the end of the half of Game 4, Houston versus Golden State, at the end of the half, the score was tied at 56, so it was 56 all, right? And at that point, before that, we saw Steph Curry go down. He was limping off, like you both touched on. It looked really, really bad. It looked pretty serious. Now, Steve Kerr lamented on the fact that, okay, I talked to him. I said, hey, you ready to go? And, he kind of broke down, and he was just, not himself. He knew that he couldn't go. Now, I'm not one to say – I don't like the idea that, this emotional factor or, this person wanted it more or this team, they were more motivated than the other. I think at the end of the day, your talent and your coaching and your game plan is what's going to succeed. But if there's ever been a moment to say, well, holy crap, this motivated this team further, it would be the situation with Steph Curry. The game was tied at 56 at the half. At the second half, Golden State outscored the Houston Rockets 65-38 in the second half, 41-20 in the third quarter. So if there was mind you, it was a close game in the first half, and then Klay Thompson just went absolutely berserk. That whole team, they responded, and I don't know if it was because, okay, our man is down, our leading horse, he's down, everything like that. But if there's ever a time to make an argument about that, that would be the case. Obviously, the fate of the playoffs, for Golden State, it ultimately depends on if Curry can return. If you're a Golden State fan, there's a little bit of optimism. You do have, let's say Steph Curry does come back a week and a half from now. Let's say they do the MRI again, and all of a sudden he's ready to come back. He is going to have some rust, mastermind, like you talked about. He's not going to be able. He went 2 for 9 in the first half against Houston before he went down with that injury, so no doubt he'll have some rust. But let's say if C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard play like they did in games 1 and 2, where they weren't themselves, they came up short really in those 2 games. Maybe that series against the injury-riddled Clippers goes longer than what we thought. What does that mean? More rest for Steph Curry. And let's say, presumably, Portland's going to go to the second round, right? They're going to go against the Golden State Warriors with Klay Thompson, Draymond Green leading the helm. Okay, that game might go maybe 5 or 6 games, which means more time for Steph Curry. So if he is going to come back a week and a half from now, that does give him a little bit of time to get rested up and everything like that. And maybe at the end of the Portland Golden State series, he can get some reps in or something like that. You got to remember, in these playoffs, games are about 2, sometimes 3 days apart from one another. So if this series, the first round of Portland and Los Angeles goes, 6, maybe 7 games, even with Chris Paul and Blake Griffin being out, then all that means is good news for Steph Curry. At the end of the day, this only matters if Steph Curry is going to come back after they reevaluate that MCL sprain. So if he's ready to go, I mean, it is what it is. He'll be back in time for the Western Conference Finals. Hopefully he'll get some reps in. But I do have some optimism. I'm not going to write this off just yet, just because of everything that's played out. The injury. Now, if Chris Paul and Blake Griffin were fully healthy, it would be a lot shorter of a time for, Steph Curry to come back, because I would assume that the Clippers, who knows, Portland probably still would have won this series either way. Mastermind, you talked about the fact that you had Damian Lillard and the Portland Trail Blazers upsetting the Los Angeles Clippers. So I think that if you're a Golden State fan, don't throw your hands up in the air and just say, "Oh, to hell with this next year." I think there's still a chance.
But going forward, I think for me as a fan, I think the Clippers have a better matchup against the Warriors rather than the Portland has a matchup going up against the Warriors, just because they're much more deeper. You know what I mean? And just for the Portland, just having Damian Lillard, just that factor alone, he can win you a game right there. But rather than there's multiple players on the Clippers that could possibly win you that game, rather than just always depending on one player.
You really would give Los Angeles Clippers a chance?
I wouldn't say
this current roster,
not this
without
current
Chris
one,
Paul?
but if everyone was healthy,
Oh, okay.
if everyone was healthy,
Oh.
if everyone was healthy, and then they were going
yeah.
against them, there's no way. If they're supposed to be this good, they should beat them without Steph Curry.
They're
But
contenders every year. Yeah, they should be.
exactly.
Okay. All right. Hey, so
According to the NBA goddess.
yeah, so I know, Bowberry, you're the one that's just like, it's over. Just count them out. It's Spurs,
Not gonna say
Cavs,
With the Clippers,
Finals, something like that. I'm not going to go that route yet. Let's see a week and a half from now how it turns out. Let's see. Let's just wait before we make proclamations. But, at the end of the day, you could be right. So we're going to talk about Los Angeles Clippers. They're dealing with their own injuries as well. This is the Lock 'em Up Hoops podcast. Realistic Randy, Mastermind, and Bowberry.
Attention, citizens of planet Earth. This is a public service announcement. We have come to tell you that everything that you have been told is a lie.